Hey, friends, welcome back for a new episode of the My Impossible podcast. Today, I was privileged to welcome Bill Villafranco to the show. Bill is a speaker, he is a trustee for the Virginia B. Toolman Foundation, Executive Director of MyFace.org, where he helps lead national efforts to support individuals with cranial facial differences through medical, emotional, and community-based programs. And underneath it all, who Bill is to me is presence. He has presence with every single individual that he has the privilege to be in contact with, whether it's a young child, whether it's an aging adult, as in his dad, whether it's me here on this podcast. I felt like there was no one else, even on the planet, when Bill was with me. And so for me, Bill is presence. He takes us deep into a story of really hard stuff in his family and who he has become. And he gives us an invitation at the end of an on-ramp into this life that he's been able to experience. I think you're really going to enjoy this conversation with Bill Villafranco. Bill Villafranco, welcome to the show. So excited to have you on the My Impossible podcast.
Oh, Jeff, thank you. It's awesome to be here.
And Bill, what is your impossible?
My impossible, that is a really good question. You know, the first thing I'd like to say is there's nothing that's impossible. I think everything is possible. So my possible is the opportunity to make sure that nothing is impossible. The opportunity to work hard, for people to see the light when it doesn't seem like there is any, to be able to move forward when they feel like going backwards. So that's mine.
Mm. And tell us that's no small mindset. Tell us what it took to get to that.
It took a tragic event in my life. My son died at birth. I was 28 years old. And leading up to that, we had a little baby girl at home. Everything seemed to be perfect. I had a great job. I had a wife that really was caring and understanding, great mom. And then we went into the hospital only to find out that our son died during the birth process. He had a true knot umbilical cord wrapped around his neck. And then my life took a tragic turn, one in which I did what you're not supposed to do. I hid behind that tragedy and never faced it for 15 years. And when I decided it was time to face it, it was a pretty dark, dark world for me. I had very few friends. I was going through a divorce. I had 4 daughters at that time, incredible girls, confused, not sure who their father was all of a sudden. And it took me quite a while to realize that my life was worth living, that I could offer a lot to others, including myself. And it was that moment that I decided that I was no longer going to live in this darkness, that I was going to push forward. So that was the event that truly shaped my life from age 28 until now I'm 62. And day doesn't go by that I don't think about my son. A day doesn't go by where I think I can make someone's life just a little bit brighter. And that's how I live my life, with those kinds of challenges.
Mm. It struck me as you were describing the moment when you came out from behind the tragedy. It felt like there's part of that is the story of every man. Now, probably women as well. So ladies that are listening, Please don't get upset at me, but I do a lot of work on myself, a lot of work with other men. And it just felt like it just hit me like a weight, like this question of who am I? I'm 51 and I probably went through this question at some point over the last 10 years. Who am I? Why am I here? Does any of this matter? It just felt the weight of it just sort of hit me in my chest as you were describing you coming out from behind losing your son. Do you, as you're in the world in your, whether it be your philanthropic work, your speaking work, your engagement with individuals, do you see that your story is everyone's story in some way?
For sure. And that's why I decided to start speaking about my story, to perhaps give others the courage to talk about their story. And Jeff, the other reason is men are afraid to approach other men at times. They want to stay behind and not really put their authentic self out there because maybe they're not looked as if they should or want to be looked like. And I believe that my story shows my authentic self, a person that has deep feelings for others, an understanding for others, and an ability to help them have the courage to talk about what's going on inside their heart. And that's why I love to speak. And that's why I love to tell my story. And my story gets more complicated as I've gotten older.
Mm, mm. Would you say more about that?
Sure. Losing a child at such a young age, they say that no parent should ever bury their child. And that is 100% true. I have a daughter who is in her early 30s who was a heroin addict. And people ask me all the time, how did you get through that? It must have been so hard for you. And the answer is, it was hard, but I was not burying another child. No matter what it took, I was not turning my back on my daughter. And people talk about they have to hit rock bottom first before they'll want help. And that's true. But the part of that that is never answered is, what does a parent do during that period where you're waiting for them to hit rock bottom? The period where you might get that phone call, which I did 3 times from the police, that she had overdosed, but she didn't pass. So what does one do? And I firmly believe that little Billy, my son who passed, gave me the courage to stand there and wait, be present for her while she was going through her addiction, because I believe that he was going to give her the strength to come out. And when she finally did, she was able to get the help that she needed and is now married with 2 beautiful little kids and happy. And it's that I believe, if men and others would speak about what's in their heart, be vulnerable to others, they'll bring more people out that may need that help. So that's why my life has been tough, but it's one that I believe little Billy continues to guide me.
Mm. You described walking with your daughter through her experience. You described it as hard, and you and I were just talking before we hit record about our friend Coach Jim Stroker, and he quotes A League of Their Own all the time. He quotes it in his book, and he says, "It's the hard that makes it great." And I'm wondering your response to that phrase, just given what you've lived, the hard that you've lived, it's the hard that makes it great. What do you say to that? If Jim
I
was
think he's
here and you heard him say that, what would you say?
he's spot on. The hard part of helping my daughter through her addiction, and now the great, she's here. She's here with 2 beautiful children and an amazing husband. And maybe even more important, she's helping others. I have 3 older daughters as well, so I have 4 daughters from my first marriage, and I have 2 children from my second marriage. And wouldn't you think that the hard for my oldest daughter is what got my 3rd daughter through her addiction? It was the hard work that we put in that makes it great to now see my older daughter step up and helping her sister, but helping multiple people with their addictions and their depressions and their anxiety. So I agree with Coach. It
Mm.
is the real hard that gets you to where you need to be.
Mm. I talk in some of my work about the be with factor. I think especially again, I'll put us men on the spot. We feel like we have to always say something. We have to have the right words. And sometimes as leaders, whether it be as dads, as husbands, as in our businesses and the communities, sometimes it's just about being with another. What have you learned, again, from your experience with your kids or as you walk with others? What have you learned about the be with factor? Because that's really, it gets uncomfortable. People bristle at that because they want the right words.
Or they want to provide the right action,
Yeah.
right? And that's probably the hardest thing for those, like you and like me that want to help someone. And we hear they have a problem. We want to jump to the solution. We have this person you can talk to and this person you want to talk to. But the truth is, maybe they don't want to talk right now. Maybe they just want someone to understand what they're going through. Maybe they just want to hear themselves speak without judgment on the other side. And that's what Amanda got with me during all of those literally 2 years, not knowing if she was going to make it, was a father that just listened to her. And it was hard. It was really hard. But I believed in my heart that she was stuck in a cycle, that she
Mm.
didn't want to be there. She wanted out of it, but didn't know how. And I think even with this organization I'm executive director of, MyFace, it's an organization that works with individuals with craniofacial differences. So if you think about it, those individuals that have facial scars, those individuals are bullied all the time. And sometimes they don't want to hear it's going to be okay
Mm.
because maybe it won't be okay in my mind or their mind. Maybe it's just okay to sit there and listen, even if it's in silence. Sometimes you don't have to speak. It could just be the energy that one transfers to the other, that energy that goes with healing that happens all the time. But we speak, we talk, we act so fast that
Mm.
pausing for a moment, and in your work, pausing for a moment is really, really critical. And Coach talks about the pause before the answer, right? Was it E plus R equals O,
Yes.
right? It's that pause before you say or act that could make all the difference to someone.
Mm. We talk a lot about an on ramp because these are big shifts that you're presenting to us. And as you said, 28 to 62, I mean, that's a long stretch of time. And as you walk with others, whether it be through my face or in other manners, what's the on ramp to stepping behind from out behind whatever it is they're hiding behind and stepping into a life that is full and rich? What is how do you counsel people in that on ramp process?
Yeah. So a lot of it has to do with my meditation. I'm a very big meditator. And in meditation, you spend a lot of time either in complete silence, which is not the type of meditation that I believe in. I believe in when a thought comes in your head, try to understand where that thought came from, either your memory or your perception. If it's your memory and a happy one, hold on to it. What's wrong with that? Why do you need to dismiss it in total silence? And
Mm.
if it's one that's not so happy, try to understand why it popped into your brain. What about it? What about it can make a difference in your life? And on the other side, if it's a perception, it hasn't happened yet.
Mm,
So if it's one that's giving you anxiety, how can it hurt you? It can't. It's just
mm,
a thought. If it's something that you're happy about, oh, I'm going to pass my driver's test, or hey, I'm going to score the winning touchdown, haven't they proven that positive thoughts lead to positive outcomes?
mm,
So on the on ramping process, when I speak to people, I just want to listen. I want to try to understand what is their perspective. Where are they coming from, and how did they get here? Because if it's all something that's happened in the past, we can break that down and we can talk about that. And we can really understand what the root cause is of that. If it's something that's never happened, it's all the anxiety. It's all the anxiety built around that event that hasn't happened yet either. So it's a lot of listening. It's a lot of listening and allowing for a safe space for an individual to have without judgments, because judgments are what can destroy a relationship. And
mm,
especially when you're just trying to learn, they don't want answers. They just want to be able to hear and listen.
mm. And philanthropy is a huge part of your world. And I'm wondering, what is it about that when the opportunity was presented? Because I take you as a what I really get is you are really intentional, Bill, about any choice that you make. And yeah, this opportunity came your way. You were already steeped in it. Um, but you said yes. So I'm wondering, what's the link between this transformative process, this transformation that you hope to bring to the world, and this work, your philanthropic work?
Yeah. We all have issues. We all have things that scare us. We all do. And maybe 10 years ago, one of my biggest fears was a child in a wheelchair. I was petrified of a child in a wheelchair. I wouldn't know what to say, wouldn't know how to act, I wouldn't know what to do. So I volunteered for a camp in California called the Painted Turtle Camp. And the Painted Turtle Camp is one of Paul Newman's hole in the wall camps. And they were having a week long camp for special diagnosis children, children with different disabilities. And one of those disabilities were children in wheelchairs. So I said to myself, the only way to overcome that is to live it, be part of it, understand it. So I volunteered and I flew out to California for a week. And the first day, I will never forget when we were practicing, simply practicing taking wheelchairs out of a canoe because the kids get to canoe around the lake. And I looked at the team leader and said, I'm out. I cannot do this. And a grown man, tears coming down my eyes. I couldn't face my fears. I couldn't. But I decided after much coercing that I had an opportunity to maybe really overcome what I came to overcome. So I got through that day. And the next day, this young man comes up to me and he says, "You're going to be my counselor this week." And I say, "I am." And he said, "I need to go to the bathroom." And I said, "Oh, okay, here goes. This is it." So I grab another counselor. We take this young man into the bathroom. I help him. He said, "Okay, wait outside." And I wait outside and literally felt like hours. It was probably minutes. He then calls me back in and says, "I'm done. Now you can help me." And I walked in and I looked at him and said, "Wait, you didn't go to the bathroom?" He said, "I didn't have to." And I said, "Well, why am I here?" "Because you're going to be my counselor for the next week. I wanted to see if you could do this." This is a 11-year-old little boy.
Amazing.
Changed my life. It literally changed my life. I had the greatest week ever.
Hmm.
And in my philanthropy, what I try to do is look at some of my fears, and I want to try to overcome those fears. And the only way to do it is with the heroes that are living it. Could be a little boy, little girl with cancer, being with them and their parents, heroes, heroes to this world. Someone like yourself, a hero to me, someone that I aspire to learn how you overcame and did what you did.
Mm.
That's going to make me a better human being. I'm going to be able to be prepared to help someone else who maybe has an issue that I meet later in life. So in my philanthropic work, I always am striving to be a better person. In MyFace, how does one approach someone with a facial difference? I just interviewed a young man who had a facial transplant after a horrific car accident and a double hand transplant. First time in the history of modern medicine. And I sat before him and I had the most wonderful conversation with this young man who taught me so much about his life, which has definitely impacted my life, which means I can then impact someone else's life. So it's this evolution in our lives where if we want to learn, there's a plethora of people that we can learn from. It just depends on what you want to learn. I want to learn how to be a better person. I want to learn how to be a better dad, better husband, better son, better friend. That's my goal. And my philanthropy gives me that opportunity.
Mm. The word that's coming up is just it's two words, authentic empathy. Because
Yeah.
you hear in the news today, social media, this whole notion of toxic empathy. But what I'm hearing from you, Bill, is authentic empathy and practicing it, actively practicing authentic empathy. How do you how do you inspire or direct, communicate to your audiences and to the people about the invitation and what's possible on the other side of authentic empathy?
Yeah. You can go example through example, right? Of people, but the most authentic example is yourself.
Mm,
It's me. It's who I've become because of meeting people like this young boy in the wheelchair. It's how I was in Houston volunteering at a pediatric cancer camp. And I was there a week, and these were teenagers, ages 13 to 16, and there were 20 of them. And the camp was amazing. And at the end of the camp, they circled around me and they thanked me for coming, and they awarded me, the counselor of the week. Then they gave me a picture, and the picture had all of their handprints on the picture. And this young girl of 15 stood up and thanked me and then reminded me that some of those handprints, there are people who may not be back to camp next year. In essence, saying they would have passed. But you made a mark during that camp on that person or people,
mm,
these young kids, that's lasting in their heart. I mean, that made me feel so authentic, so real, so appreciated by the little gift I gave them. The gift they gave me was beyond what they could ever give me. And I think if you can be the authentic person and the authentic, true person, and you can exhibit that in the way you act, the way you speak, the way you help others, others will want that too because it leads to a better life. It leads to a more fulfilling life. I mean, shoot, Coach Stroker is like the genius of all of this, and he's an incredible speaker, but he's also lived in an incredibly difficult life that it's not the difficulty he talks about. It's about the outcomes and how he learned and changed his life to be a happier person, to be there for his three children. It's an amazing book, as we've all talked about before, and he's an amazing human being. And so if there was a pinpoint person, like he might be the person I aspire to be the most to be because he talks about it, right? And he lets you as a goal toward it. So
mm. Yeah, what the picture I'm getting in Coach Stroker fits what I'm about to say, but what I'm getting is just presence. That whether you're at that camp for cancer, kids with cancer, whether you're with the young man with the facial transplant and is there's a power of presence, of just be when we talked a few minutes ago about the be with factor of just being with someone. And I think that's what I'm getting from in this conversation with you. I get every time I'm with Coach Stroker, is he's just all in with you in that moment. It's not about what's next. It's not about any agenda. It's just about you and the person that's in front of you.
So true. It's so true. I will tell you all of these examples. I'm a better dad.
Mm,
Like, I'm a better husband. I'm a better person, right? I'm a better friend. And isn't that all what we hope to in our life be remembered for when we're not here? He was such or she was such a good person. She cared so much, right? It's not about, we hear this all the time. It's not about, what you accumulate, right? Your Porsches, your cars, and all that. It's not about that. You can't take it with you.
mm.
It's about how you as a person treated other people, right? With that empathy, compassion. It's what matters most in life.
Yeah. At My Impossible, our phrase that we lean into is my impossible is our possible, with the emphasis on the our, meaning community. I'm wondering as you look at your story, what's been the power of the hour, of the community in you taking on what has felt impossible, maybe what your impossible is today?
Yeah, this is a great question. It's Thanksgiving, right? A sense of community around the table, a sense of community out in the world. And this organization, MyFace, was a little organization in New York City that dealt with children and individuals with facial differences. And I was brought on to take them national. Now, the only way to do that is to build community. And the only way you build community is one person at a time. And then it's all about the storytelling. It's all about how has someone impacted your life? And I flew down to Nashville a few months ago and I met this little girl. She's 5 years old. Her name is Josie. And Josie's had 7 surgeries so far in her little life and major surgeries. She's having her second major spine surgery next week. And I flew down to see Josie and her 3 siblings and her mom at a children's museum. And we played for an hour and a half or 2 hours together, and we got to know each other. And we've become really good friends. And from that has come 5 or 6 more friends. And from that, they have met new people. And the stories, the collective stories, is what's now transmitted amongst all of them. And they feel like they have a place to go, a place that's safe, a place where people can learn from each other, a place that they can cry without being judged, a place where they can do things together without the looks and the stares. And the community, any community, is so critically important. My third daughter, who's a recovering alcoholic, lives in a community of sober people. Her safe place, a place where she can be herself and not feel judged. And community is so important. But in this community, you have to allow people not in the community in, so everybody can learn and understand. So it has to be a place where everyone is together and accepting, and then also a little risk taking as well, right? Because that's how you grow a community. Otherwise, it's just this little tiny area or a little village when we live in this great big country.
Mm. Yeah, as you said, a little bit of risk. My stomach went into a little bit of a knot because I feel that. While community has been such a huge part of my story, I still feel that little knot in my stomach about opening myself up to someone different than I am.
Mhm.
Uh, and so I'm present to that feeling, that tension that I feel. I know it's what I have to do. I know that's who I have to be, but I still feel that little bit of a knot when I think, oh, I got to put myself out there. I got to connect authentically with somebody who's different than me.
Can I talk about pride for a moment?
Yes.
one of my good friends, I had talked to about him. He was in a bicycle accident 10 or so years ago, and now he's in a wheelchair. And he posted just the other day, he went back to his college reunion and he was going to speak on stage. And his friends from college lifted him in his wheelchair. And he said he had all these conflicting thoughts in his head, like, I should be able to do this. I don't need help. I'm strong enough, until he realized I'm not. And I'm okay with that. And these people are here to help me. This is not pity. This is true, authentic friendship. And it made me think about what you were just saying. And I think we all live that way, where we're too proud at times to say, hey, I got to ring the bell. I need help. Or, hey, you know what? I'm having a rough day. Maybe you can help me. Right. And I think exactly what you're saying, to step outside that comfort zone, take a little bit of risk. And sometimes that risk is in a form of pride. Sometimes it's in, I need help. It could be in so many different areas, but to be able to do that, I had to do it in my lowest moment where I didn't want to live anymore. I took a phone call from my brother who I hadn't spoken to in quite some time. Why? I'm not sure, but I stepped out of where I was, and my brother and I have become incredibly close. And I cherish that relationship. So it's stepping out too, but understanding that you're in a safe area and you'll be okay. You'll be okay.
Mm, mm. Bill, there's hundreds, we'll hope thousands of people who are going to listen to this. What's your invitation to them today?
Stay quiet just once in a while.
Mm,
Sit quiet. Let your thoughts come to your head. Let your feelings come to your heart. Don't judge yourself, because if you start judging yourself, you're going to start making believe you're someone who you're not.
mm,
We all have core values, like they're built in us, right? And our core values are what carry us. We get lost when our core values no longer become our core values. So if you can sit and you can think and you can listen to your heart and listen to what it's telling you and follow it. And when you're lost, ask for the help. It's there, it's right in front of you. But your ego or your pride might stop you. Try to let that go and ask for that help that you really do need. And you'll be so much happier. And you know what? So will the person who's offering the opportunity to help you. They'll be
mm,
happier.
mm. So good, Bill. If folks that are listening want to know more about you, your work, maybe they even say, hey, we got to have Bill speak to our audience, where can we send them?
So you can send them to bill.villafranco@gmail. And I'll certainly answer your email and
Mm,
welcome an opportunity to speak to you. But please, there's opportunities like this that are really beautiful opportunities. And I want to thank you for this opportunity, and the opportunity to come on and talk a little bit about my story. You're an amazing young man, and you've done amazing things in your life. And I don't know if you share much of that online, but people should get to know who you are, because there's a deep rooted person inside right now that I'm looking at that's got a lot to share.
mm. Uh, Thank you. And I'm getting better at sharing. And I, yeah, thank you so much for that. That means a lot, Bill. Um, well, I have a feeling there's going to be a part two of this conversation down the line, and I can't wait to share that. Can't wait to share this with the world and whatever might come next. So, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Jeff. Hey, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
You too.
Thank you.